Hello everybody, welcome back. For those of you who are new to the channel, let me introduce myself. My name is Alejandro. I'm a media composer and sound designer, and I'm also a sample instrument creator. When the pandemic began, I decided to spend more time creating Kontakt instruments, learning as much about it as I could, and ever since I started sharing some of these sample instruments with you, first through Piano Book, which for those of you who don't know about it, is a really cool website. There are some very amazing instruments available through there, so I really recommend that you go visit it. The reason why I first decided to make my own sample instruments was because I wanted to have something original in each project. I wanted something that I hadn't used before, but also something that had never been used before in a score or in just my solo music as well. Some of the first attempts that I did was using violins. So instead of using a lot of sample libraries to create a specific sound, what I did was write down these instructions in a score and get a violinist to come in and record that, and then record a couple of round robins, record a wide range of notes, and then create my own instrument. That has led to a few instruments that I used quite a lot in my own productions, but the instrument that I want to talk about today is my new range of TF instruments, which comes from Telefunken. Hainbach, which some of you might be familiar with. He has an amazing channel with lots of very interesting content. If you like outboard gear, if you like old gear to make sounds with, old gear that you wouldn't think was musical, you should definitely check out his channel. I will leave a link in the description. He shared the sound of a Telefunken RA 472, if I'm not mistaken, and he gave this challenge to the community, making music with those sounds, whatever kind of music that would be. When I saw those, I knew that I was gonna make an instrument out of it, but I didn't know that the sample was gonna be as rich as it was, so that led to me creating 4 different instruments. 2 of those instruments have already been put out through my website, through Acousmatic Sounds. The first is TF Fundamental, the second is TF Signals. And today I want to talk very briefly about the third one and also a surprise 4th one. So we'll talk about TF Tremolo and TF Lead. The latter is hopefully going to be available in Piano Book, and if for whatever reason it's not, it will still be available in my website. The TF Fundamental, TF Signals, and TF Tremolo do have a price tag. This is because of all the work that went into creating them, also designing the user interface and, well, just basically the coding and everything else. So it's not a very big price tag, but it just goes to sort of contribute. I appreciate anyone that is able to purchase those instruments from me. And the TF Lead, hopefully that would also be included in Piano Book. If not, you can go to the link in the description for my website under free instruments. What I thought we could do for this video is we could focus on the TF Tremolo and the TF Lead, since it's the first time that I'm showing it. And at the end, I'm gonna go very quickly through the previous instruments, the TF Fundamental, TF Signals, just to talk about them a little bit more. I'm very excited about these 4 instruments. I think that they're quite musical in very unexpected ways. I will talk about them in a little bit more detail as we go through it, but I'm very happy with them. I hope that they're gonna inspire you to create something with them. Without further ado, let's have a look at the TF Tremolo first, followed by the TF Lead, and then we'll see the TF Fundamental and TF Signals very quickly. Let's go. Here we have a Pro Tools session that I created with 4 instrument tracks, and we're going to start by having a look at the TF Tremolo. Okay, so let's open up that instance of Kontakt. When you first open the TF Tremolo, this is what you're going to see. This is the user interface I designed. You'll see right away that there are 3 knobs. The first one says reverb, the second attack, and the third release. Let's have a listen. As I told you before, and like all the instruments with Acousmatic Sounds, all of the controls are CC assignable. So you can see over here I'm controlling it with my Nano Control 2. This, of course, is just to allow like the most playability possible. So let's get rid of all the the reverb. I'm just gonna play a chord sequence so we can try out the attack and the release controls. When you have it all, like when you have the attack and the release control set to 0.1, it's so clicky, so snappy. It's very cool. It's quite bizarre. And here, for instance, if you bring the attack all the way up, it adds a lot of texture, doesn't it? This is something I like. Have a very short release and a bit of a longer attack. Now, a big surprise that the TF Tremolo has to offer is that when you control the mod wheel, you're gonna blend between 5 different versions of the same sounds. It'll make more sense if I just play it and show you what I mean. So if we have the mod wheel, it's gonna be all the way down, as we have been listening to so far. And when you introduce it, you're gonna have this sort of panning effect. So it's a little less loud than when you have the mod wheel all the way down, but what you have to compensate for this is this movement in the stereo image. So you can see if you blend in very smoothly, Alright, so that was the TF Tremolo, and now let's move on to the TF Lead. When you open the TF Lead, this is what you're gonna have. Again, 3 knobs. The one on the left is called mono, then stereo, and then echoes. Now this quite straightforward. The mono is a mono signal that very much stays in the center of your stereo image. Stereo obviously is stereo, and echoes are some sort of delay echo thing that I created playing with around with the sample. Let's go over each of those. Let's bring down the stereo and just have a listen to the mono by itself. This is what it sounds like. Before I continue describing this instrument, I want to remind you that this one is actually going to be available for free on my website. And there's also going to be an option to buy a whole bundle, which will include the 4 TF instruments. This will also be included in it, but you can get it by itself under the free instrument section on the website. So what's really cool about the mono signal here is I took the original stereo track after I did all of the noise reduction, tuning, and everything else. I took the stereo image and I ran it through my Porta 03. And when I brought it back, I ran it twice through the Porta 03. And when I finally brought it back to Pro Tools, I brought it back as mono. So I took both of the left and right and I passed it only on through the left. And I only took the left out channel and I burned it into a mono track in Pro Tools. Right, so let's have a listen to the stereo now. So you can see there's a little bit of movement. I like putting the mono a little bit over the stereo, because then it kind of adds, because it adds a little bit more dimension. You have something that's surrounding you, but you have a very clear thing coming through the center, and you have that kind of, plus the fact that it's a little bit delayed adds a little bit of room. Now this, I had a lot of fun creating this because there's so many echoes. I've run it maybe, I'm not no kidding, maybe 10 times through my pedals. There's so many echoes there that it kind of becomes a reverb. Like this pad alone, like I've spent, no joke, I've spent hours. It blends very well with strings too. The final very cool thing about the TF Lead is that it comes with a sequencer. For those of you who have downloaded the big lead, this is the same sequencer that you would have found there. We're going to play just a little chord sequence just so you can have an idea of what it sounds like. So that as well can be just hours of fun. I really recommend that you download this free instrument, and I would love to know what you think about it. Before wrapping up, I want to go very quickly through the TF fundamental and the TF signals. There are some videos that show a little bit what it can do, but I just want to play around and show you the versatility of this instrument. Now, let's open up the TF fundamental. When you first open the instrument, this is what you're going to get. You're going to get 4 controls over here, each with a knob controlling the volume, and you have a 5th knob over here that's going to control the rotation. I'll explain very quickly how I created the TF fundamental. When I put the original sample in RX6, looking at the frequencies, I saw that there was this constant humming that the machine was producing. So what I did is I isolated sort of the fundamental frequency. What I saw was the lowest frequency that remained constant throughout the whole sample. And I put that in this first control. Once I had that fundamental, what I did is to look for its harmonics, following the harmonic series. And because these are obviously not sine waves, there a lot of those frequencies. Once I isolated these frequencies, there was lots of other information that came from the rustling of the machine or the other sounds that were happening in that sample. So while I was adding these harmonics, it wasn't just a simple addition of frequency like you would have in a simple sine wave. Each of them had different information that they were adding. So it was really cool to go through all of these sort of levels. And what I did is I split them into these 4 controls. We'll see each of them individually and then we'll put them together in the end. This is the second control. Very, very cool. Now this is the third one. Super interesting. And finally the fourth. Oops. That was my cat jumping on the desk and he turned that off. I don't think he likes it. Right, so now if we put a few of them together. This is all of them played. In the introduction video, I made the joke of this replacing your Fender Rhodes. Because it very much sounds like it. If you put in the fourth, take away this, it sounds like an organ. Well, anyways, we could spend hours playing around with this. Let's move over to this TF signal. When you open up the TF signals, you get 3 control knobs: Eerie, Broken, and Nublus. The name signals kind of suggests that this perhaps is not going to be the most obviously melodic instrument. Let's go over to Broken. Now let's listen to Nublus, which is definitely the most sound designy control of them all. This is very textural. This is just to add some sort of a lot of movement. So let's play this together very quickly. Quite cool, isn't it? So yeah, that's the TF signals. Again, there's a lot that you can really do with this. Today we got a chance to go over all of the 4 instruments that I created with that same Telefunken sample. We had the TF Tremolo, TF Lead, the TF Fundamental, and finally the TF signals. And all 4 of them are going to be available on my website. TF Lead is going to be part of the free instruments. Now, before we wrap up the video, I want to show you a track that I created using only the TF Tremolo and the TF Lead. The drums for this came from my Korg Volca beats, but everything else was made with the TF Tremolo and the TF Lead. Now let's listen to only the parts of the track that were played with the TF Lead. So that we can listen to the sequencer right away. I hope that was useful and that understanding a little bit more of how I created the instruments and the different things that you can make with it, that this can inspire you to use those instruments in your new compositions, in your new work, whether that would be as a main attraction, something in the foreground. I'm sure that you can do a lot with either of these 4 instruments. I am so thankful for all of you who have already downloaded the instruments that are available right now on the Acousmatic Sound website. It really means a lot to me. It's very special to see that there's a lot of you out there who are downloading this instrument and hopefully are introducing those instruments to your creations. It's so rewarding to see this happening. It's really cool. It just makes me want to create even more instruments out there. What makes me even more excited is knowing that there's a few Kontakt instruments that are ready to be released. Right now I'm just working on composing some demos for the different instruments and creating similar walkthrough videos like this one, which I do hope are useful for you. And if you would like me to go into more detail or explain something more specific about how I make these instruments, I would love to know that. You can leave a comment under the video or contact me directly. I have a new idea for an instrument that I thought could be a good opportunity for me to show you how I create these instruments. Not only how I go about noise reducing the samples or choosing the round robins, but also how I put them in Kontakt. So it could be a little bit of a in-depth tutorial. If that's something that would interest you, but please let me know. I know that there's a few out there, but I feel like it could be worth seeing how someone else does it, because that's basically how I learned to go about Kontakt. It can be daunting if you want to do it all by yourself. So watching someone else do it and learning the tricks that they themselves picked up somewhere else along the way can be incredibly helpful. Before doing this, I want to put out a few other Kontakt instruments before and dive a little bit deeper into this kind of walkthrough videos explaining each particular instrument. But I will definitely do that because I feel like it could be something very useful for the community. There can never be enough videos to show you how to do something because each can offer you something different. Like I said in other videos before, if you made it this far, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I hope that this was interesting. My main intention with these videos is of course to show you how the instruments that I create work, how they could potentially become a part of your toolkit, but it's also to show you how I see and how I perceive these sounds around. This is something that I want to get through with Acousmatic Sound, is this idea that any sound really you can turn it into an instrument, you can turn it into something that is gonna have a different purpose than you would have originally had for that sound. And I'm very happy to have you all be a part of this journey, especially if that means that I'm creating instruments that are inspiring you. So please stay tuned because there's gonna be a lot new instruments, a lot new videos, a lot more demos. To finish off the video, I'm gonna play the track that I showed you previously, using only the tremolo and the lead instrument. I also want to point you to the track that I created for Hainbach's original challenge. It's a track called Green It Comes to Me that you can find on my Bandcamp. You can also find on my website. It's already available in all streaming platforms, whichever one you use. There's also a video on my channel, so I invite you to check that out because that track, except for the drums, that track was created only using the TF bundle. That was the first experiment using this instrument, so I'm quite proud of the song. I think it's bizarre in a way, experimental, and I don't know, I think you would enjoy it. Stay tuned for new Kontakt instruments coming very soon. I'm very excited about them. Please subscribe if you haven't do so, because that way you can know as soon as I put a new video. And also, if you find this kind of video useful, please like the video and share it with the rest of your music making community. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.